There are so many exciting opportunities within the construction and property market, but with these opportunities come a number of challenges and risks which property developers in particular need to be able to navigate. Ideally, as early as possible in the planning stage, developers should seek advice on the many different aspects of tax legislation which might apply to each development project.
Taking advice at the right time can allow developers to move forward with a clear understanding of the likely post-tax project returns.
Property developers should consider the potential effects of specific tax avoidance legislation where plans are made for profit from land to be free of exposure to UK income or corporate tax.
The legislation prevents transactions being arranged to fall within liability to capital gains tax rather than income tax, or transactions that seek to avoid UK tax altogether. Care is required to ensure liability from tax is not forgotten about when planning transactions involving UK land.
The VAT treatment of property development can be very complex and requires careful consideration and professional advice to ensure VAT reporting obligations are met.
There are 3 VAT rates which costs incurred in a project may be subject to: zero rate, reduced rate, standard rate. As supplies in relation to property can also be exempt from VAT altogether, developers are obliged to consider all of these when planning projects.
Recovering VAT on costs is another area which requires attention when dealing with property development. This is especially true when developers have a mixture of taxable and exempt developments, as partial exemption brings an added burden.
Larger projects are likely to fall under the capital goods scheme, which requires monitoring over a 10-year period. For these longer-term projects, the intention at the outset may not match the final outcome. This can result in clawback of previously recovered VAT or the imposition of an irrecoverable charge on the occupier of the property. As a result, robust advice should be sought as early as possible.
When developers purchase land or transfer it within their own business, they should plan in advance for the liability to LBTT that normally follows land transactions in Scotland. Understanding the implications of all potential land taxes will allow cash flow requirements to be understood and catered for.
Capital allowances provide tax relief on specific capital expenditure that is attributed to buildings. The availability of this relief should always be considered in property transactions to provide cash benefits to an acquirer and to prevent sales prices being reduced due to capital allowances being unavailable to a buyer.
Many developers overlook their obligations to register for the Construction Industry Scheme, or CIS for short, when making payments to subcontractors. This compliance failure can result in significant penalties and cash flow difficulties for a developer.
Taking advice on CIS and the application of IR35 off-payroll working from April 2020 is essential to prevent cash flow impacts and time being lost in dealing with HMRC inquiries.
Developers often end up retaining properties within their business, which in the future causes them to consider partitioning their investment in development businesses. We always recommend taking advice in the early stages of projects to avoid any unexpected tax results.
Additionally, many successful developers begin to consider what they must do in order to plan for their exit from the business or for succession. Such developers with good management teams are regularly looking to provide incentives to retain their teams.
To do so, management salaries are normally supplemented with the correct mix of equity-based arrangements, benefits in kind and pension contributions. The tax implications of this mix is an area where seeking advice is important in order to deliver a tax-efficient reward.
At AAB, we have years of experience supporting clients in the property and construction sectors, and our knowledge of the issues and risks involved means we understand the challenges faced. We draw on this expertise to help property developers overcome these complex compliance requirements and deliver the most efficient solution for themselves and their businesses.